Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm Elaine Christian with the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability, and we are so excited to be partnering with Let It Rot today to chat about composting your food waste. We have Mel the Worm Queen with us today, who is the founder and director of Let It Rot, and I can't wait to learn all about composting. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat box, and we will have Q&A at the end. Keep in mind that if you like today's program, we have many more scheduled. You can always visit wpb.org/green to view our upcoming programs. I will also be sending out a follow-up email after today's presentation, which will include the recording in case you'd like to share it or watch it again. And it will also include important links or resources mentioned today, which will include links to both of our web pages as well. And now let's transition to Mel the Worm Queen so we can find out more about food waste and composting.
Hi, everybody who participates in any of my programs, whether it's soil or my compost pickup program, is called the Squirm Squad. So, hey y'all, and welcome to the Squirm Squad. I'm Mel, the Worm Queen, and I have a really cool local business called Let It Rot. With Let It Rot, I collect compostable trash all around Palm Beach County and parts of Martin County now as well. And I haul it back to one of 3 small farms. And when I say small, I mean I work with less than 900 square feet of space in my locations. And I compost it old school style. After a couple months in the compost pile, I harvest it, feed it to worms with fresher and different scraps from a lot of the participants on my business pickup program. And then after another couple of months, I start harvesting that worm poop and I sell that as an organic alternative to fertilizers and pesticides. So something that's very cool about my business and how I run it is I have a double impact when it comes to environmental causes, sustainability, and climate impact. Not only am I diverting compostable trash out of the landfill, which greatly reduces methane emissions caused by normal anaerobic breakdown at a traditional landfill like what we have here, I'm also providing much more sustainable and environmentally friendly alternatives to things like regular fertilization, regular pesticide treatments, or even more aggressive fertilization or pesticide treatments from growers, gardeners, nurseries, small farms, and I'm hoping I can continue to impact even larger consumers of those products the bigger my business becomes. I do have some really cool numbers that I've been collecting as part of my trash subscription program that I'm going to talk some more about. But first, I just want to tell you what my trash subscription program sounds like, looks like, and what it's like to participate. So I'm sure everybody watching has had some form of a garbage service at least some point during their life. You bag your trash over time. You bring it outside into a bin, and then once, twice, 3 times a week in some cases, you bring that bin out to the curb, and then a big old trash truck comes and collects your trash. We, in some places in this country, have services like that for your compostable garbage, but unfortunately, we don't have anything like that on a municipal scale or subsidized by any kind of local government or municipality in South Florida. So to fill a need that's obviously here, I started offering a trash pickup service. So the way my service works, it's similar to like a Uber Eats or a Grubhub service where I just come in a regular vehicle, and instead of doing a delivery, I come and pick up your trash and I leave an empty clean container for you to continue participating in the pickup program. It's really, really easy. You sign up right through my website. Within a week, I drop off your container. I clean those. I do treat them occasionally for bugs, and I make sure that they're all clean, uncracked, and well managed. And then every other week, for only $10 a month, I come right to your door. I take that whole thing and I leave you a clean, empty new one for you to do the whole process over again. I started offering that service 3 years ago for free for 10 people in my neighborhood up in Jupiter. And now I have no free clients left at all. And I have over 70 regular subscribers to my residential program. That's been really exciting because when I got started doing this, I worked with the Palm Beach County Food Bank and really large numbers of food waste at a time. And working with individuals, I might only collect 5 to 15 pounds of scraps a week, but some of my clients have been with me for more than a year now, and those numbers really do add up, and that impact is exponential compared to if you were just participating in the regular trash service here. I do have a couple businesses that I work with. They're all really cool, small business, local restaurant kind of places. And I'm going to shout them out just because without their support, I would not be where I'm at. Driftwood down in Boynton Beach is a wonderful restaurant with a chef who also focuses on locally grown food and sustainable alternatives to regularly consumed food products. He makes everything in-house. His food and staff are phenomenal. I also work with Common Grounds Coffee Bar in Lake Worth. We collect almost all of their coffee grinds, banana peels, and some of their tea scraps and other things from the kitchen. Another restaurant in West Palm Beach, I guess Palm Beach Island, Almond, which is a newer restaurant to open right by Royal Ponciana. And we collect some of their seafood scraps and all of their kitchen prep waste and all of their office waste. I also work with El Sol Community Center up in Jupiter. I work with One World Zero Waste, which is a really cool plastic-free grocery store in Sequesta. And I feel like I'm missing someone. I had an engineering firm that's been closed since COVID, but we were doing all of their scrap paper, blueprints, office waste, and and Guanabanas and Modern Juice recently joined the trash pickup service this year. So I'm doing about 20 to 40 gallons of fish frames and then all the juice bar out of their juice bar. They have a few more restaurants that I'm hoping to start servicing soon. It's just having that kind of waste requires a certain kind of space and technique that I have to slowly build my compost program up to. When I started doing my pickups, I was only hauling about 50 to 100 pounds of compostable scraps a week. So now about a year later, I really only have the capacity to make about 30 to 50% of the original weight I hauled into soil product that's usable. So even though I have a lot of business now, I'm still not generating a lot of worm castings or soil to make as big of an impact on this area, which is why I have a lot more data on the trash diversion that I've been doing for the last, I think, 3 years now with the pickup service I offer. The trash pickup service has happened, I think at the start of 2020, I had 2 days a week where we would drive and collect about 15 buckets or so. And now there's 3 to 4 routes every week in different areas of the county. I have a Stewart and Martin County trash pickup service. I have a Jupiter and Tequesta day. I have a Juneau Gardens and North Palm Beach day. I have a West Palm day. I have an East West Palm day. I have a Boynton pickup day, and then I have a Delray and Boca pickup day. My Boca pickups, my Royal Palm Beach pickups, which I just got one new sign up out there last week, and my Martin County pickups are an extra $5 a month, but it's the same exact service. It's just an extra $5 in fuel fees in order to get out to that part of the county. The idea is to grow the subscribers I have in those areas and partner with more like community-based agriculture operations, like community gardens, urban farms, and that kind of stuff. So as I build business in that area, I can give the gift of all the soil I'm producing back to another community organization who would really appreciate it, and also potentially create some jobs for those institutions I'm working with for other local people in the community who care about green initiatives. So my urban farm in West Palm Beach is Urban Growers at Henrietta Bridge Farm, which is also, I think, ran in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Sustainability. But our farm director there, Bosley, has helped me develop and build out a nice little section, 900 square feet, on his 1.5 acre urban farm. And we recently hired a gentleman from the neighborhood who walks to work 1 day a week for me right now and does about 2/3 of the compost I haul on a weekly basis. Ideally, I could hire him for more than just 1 day a week, maybe 1 or 2 of his friends or neighbors, and then slowly offer that same exact program for all different community organizations around Palm Beach County. With all that being said, for my entire impact over the year 2020, I do have some cool images that I shared with Elaine. I think it would be the second slide that you have, Elaine, but it is, I believe, like well over 40, yeah, not that one, but the 41,000. So 41,650 pounds of compostable scraps has been hauled by me and the people who helped me with Let It Rot since, I think, the first date we collected data from was the 31st of 2019, and the last date that we have data logged into this report card is from about 2 weeks ago. So as of 2 weeks ago, in just a regular vehicle with all my part-time staff, we've diverted 41,000 pounds over that from the landfill here. Now, if you look beneath that figure, it says that that's approximately 140,000 plus pounds of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, I'm able to generate this information because the EPA has done all kinds of carbon capture testing and programs with different landfills all over the world, but particularly here. And they've been able to estimate that for every 1 pound of green organic waste, when I say green, that tends to mean things that are higher in nitrogen. I like to think of them as things that will give off water or some kind of liquid runoff as they break down. Almost 4 pounds, the number's 3.8 pounds of carbon dioxide and methane gas is produced in a landfill scenario. So by diverting all of this weight, the 41,000 pounds of trash from the landfill this year, we've prevented 140,000 pounds of carbon dioxide and methane gas from being generated by it instead going to the landfill and being subjected to its normal decomposition process. There isn't any good ways for me to track this impact specifically with the way my compost programs are run right now, because I don't have a lot of data collection tools or any technology. I turn the pile myself with my own 2 arms, and sometimes if I'm lucky, a helper. But as I start to work with more waste and on bigger properties, there is equipment available to help me measure this even more precisely. Instead, what I do is every time I do a trash pickup, I weigh that individual subscriber's buckets, and then I track that manually. I enter it into a data spreadsheet, and then I have some formulas set up to help me convert that data into what you're looking at. So at the end of the year, I'll send this information out with every individual's impact as well. So Elaine, if you go, I think like 2 or 3 slides forward, I have one more. So Dana is one of my West Palm Beach trash pickup subscribers, and she's been one of my clients for, I believe, over a year now. If not, we're very close to a year. And she may only have 5 to 15 pounds of trash every time I come to collect. But over that period of time, she's already up to 205 pounds of waste diverted from the landfill. And if you look further down at some of the other numbers on that report card, the impact or the reduction in emissions could also be measured in not consuming 40 gallons of gas, or not driving 45,000 miles on gasoline, or I'm sorry, I guess I'm reading it a little backwards. I can't see it that well because my phone is a little small, but these are all different formulas that, again, the EPA has generated based on their information to make businesses like mine, who focus on smaller impacts at a time with their local communities, to give you an idea as to why and how recycling your compostable scraps with someone like me, or even in an at-home compost system, is a lot more sustainable and has a much better impact on your environment if that's the goal you're trying to reach. So Dana is, I believe, just a married person. So it's just two people living in a small townhouse. The next slide over is a family of 4 who frequently has extended family coming to stay with them. And she's also been subscribed for the same time Dana has, and her family of 4, waste generation is substantially larger, almost 4 times the amount of what a 2-person home might be creating. But you can see the size of the impact over 1 year of time just participating. She's been able to make with me. Now, I think if you go back 3 slides, all of my Palm Beach County, yeah, that one, the 21,106 pounds, that's all of the current residents that I have participating on my every other week $10 a month trash pickup program. So even though I have less than 100 individual residents in Palm Beach County participating, you can see that the impact when you combine all of their waste that I've diverted together is quite remarkable. In fact, I only, as a business servicing businesses and residents in 2019, was able to divert 26,000 pounds total. So just my individual households alone have made a significant impact. And if you go over one more to the one more, those are all my businesses. So my individual participants are actually making a bigger impact on our local environment than my businesses that are participating. So even though you might feel very overwhelmed when you start to think about climate change and environmental crises we're having, things like these extended hurricane seasons, worse flood seasons, extended wildfire seasons, like how can one person make a difference? But like, I started offering this program 3 years ago because I was one person who wanted to make a difference and had an idea as to how I could help others do that. And now with all these businesses and residents combined, just signing up and contracting me to help them on an individual basis, I think go back one more, Elaine, we've been able to hit 41,000 pounds of trash diverted altogether, just focusing on what we each can do as an individual. I don't know if there's anything else that I wanted to show you slide-wise. You're welcome to keep them up or hi. So the idea behind why I started offering this service and what my ultimate goal is to make composting your scraps in Palm Beach County something that is very attainable and easy to participate in for everybody who lives here. As easy as it is to take out your trash to the curb, I would like for it to be that easy to bring out your compostable trash to the curb for one service to pick up, and your landfill trash to a different curb or a curb on a different day for that waste service to pick up. And as I get more and more people to sign up and work with me on my small scale program, these numbers will continue to grow larger and larger, and the impact I'm making will suddenly be significant enough that I hope to get subsidized by either a city or the county altogether, so we can start offering more sustainable trash programs here for the residents of Palm Beach County. Florida, to me, is one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been to. I absolutely love living here. We have such a beautiful and unique climate around us, between the swamp and Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades and the ocean and the intercoastal and all the scrub forests and all the other naturescapes in between. Um, all of that will only be benefited by something like what I do being offered on a larger scale and continuing to be as easy as I try to make it for my clients to participate. As more and more people start composting their trash, instead of just filling in a hole somewhere, I hope to produce soil that's such high quality, the local farmers and growers who do practice organic practices or care about the quality of soil or the amount of chemicals they're using in their fields and programs will be able to buy like affordable and sustainably made dirt alternatives that have a much better impact on the environment, are less likely to create increases in nitrogen in our waterways. Therefore, we'll have less blue-green algae crises. Compost is known to help retain water and soil, to add microbial life back into the soil that makes plant growth, plant production, flowering, fruit production, flavor, all better. It's just each side of the business benefiting so many different parts of all the parts of Florida and my community that I love so much. And it just takes you knowing that there are better alternatives and then working together to make them happen and make them happen easily, to start making a really big difference here in the county. And hopefully, if my slides did anything, that at least showed you, like, it doesn't take much to start really seeing results. So I think Elaine has been curating some questions for me, and I'm happy to end here and start answering some of the questions that might have stacked up while I was rambling.
Thank you so much, Mel. We do have a lot of questions that have come in, so I want to try and get to some of these quickly. So there's been a lot of questions about if someone lives in a gated community or in an apartment or a condo that has like their door to get out is inside, can they still participate in your program?
Yes. So just like I think I compared the pickup service and the way I work the deliveries to like ordering an Uber Eats or a Postmates. You would have to give me permission and tell me how to access or find where you are, whether it's in a gated neighborhood or in an apartment building, both of which I do have multiple clients in those living situations. And some gates have like a service access code you can give me. Some gates I get called in. Some gates I have the residence access number and I just dial in and wait to be granted permission to come in. Because your pickup days are always the same, it's always one day of the week, every other week, forever, no matter what. Environmental crises, holidays, all of those things, we still come. It's easy enough to get into a swing of things. I have some clients who in like apartment buildings will just leave it outside a front door or leave it down in like a front lobby. Certain lobbies will hold it all day for me. Other lobbies need more of a time window. So as I figure out what route you belong in and when your trash is getting picked up, there are a couple people who I have to do things like text a 30-minute warning to, or call myself in at a gate, or park somewhere and walk in and walk up to a building. But again, like if you're committed to participating, then we're committed to making sure it's as easy as your trash service is. It's just up to you to help us do the research we need to do to be able to access you as a personal service. We're not, city workers or like a large contractor kind of service. So the same way that you would make sure your pizza delivery guy can get your pizza to your place is the same way you would make sure I can get your bucket out of your place and your new empty one to you.
And there's been a lot of questions about different types of foods that can be composted. So I have kind of a list here. Can acidic foods like pineapples and oranges, can those be composted? What about onions, onion peel, garlic peel, hot chili peppers, and citrus peel?
So what can and can't be composted changes depending on who's doing the composting. When it comes to, in general, if you wanted to start a compost pile or if there was a large compost business or facility, technically anything that's organic and organic in like the chemical sense of carbon based, anything at all that was once alive or is made of living components, will break down and therefore can be composted. Now, when it comes to like worms, and if you were to have, I make 5 and 7 gallon personal worm composting systems for you to have in like an apartment, on a patio, stuff like that. You have to be a little more particular with what you give. Worms, I tell people to think of like toddlers. They're gonna like the more sugary sweet foods like melons and mango. And then things like onion or hot pepper, they might not be as willing to eat, but will over time, or will if you prep it in a certain way. When it comes to my compost pickup service, I want you to be able to be as zero waste as you're willing to go. So I accept all plant-based garbage, which includes things like wooden pencil shavings, shredded paper, napkins, paper towels, tissues, the tags that come off of clothing, compostable to-go materials. The things that I do not accept are no compostable plastic whatsoever. Compostable plastics don't break down in a backyard composting pile, and that's technically what I run, is a backyard compost pile. I just do it on a slightly larger scale than the average backyarder, and I have 3 different farms where I do that. I also don't accept any raw poultry, any raw red meat, and I don't accept bones or coconuts. Most of that is because it attracts a lot of pests, vermin, wild animals, and the smells are harder to manage. And because I work on small spaces in more populated areas, I do try to make sure my neighbors don't ever have to deal with any odor associated with composting. So things like dairy and meat will be the worst offenses when it comes to the smell of it breaking down, and I try to limit or restrict that. I do have a few exceptions, and all of my clients have my cell phone number where you can always text me with a picture or a question, and I'll get back to you right away, or as soon as I possibly can, with whether or not it's okay.
And I did have a question about, would it be made clear about what exactly can be composted or not composted with your pickup service? And I can answer personally that yes,
Yeah.
Mel makes that very clear. So you will know exactly what can and cannot be composted. There's no real gray area there. She lays it out and gives you all that information. I do have a lot of questions too about if someone wants to start their own composting at home.
Okay. Energy for you, not so much weight loss.
Okay.
All right.
I'm sorry, what was that? Composting at home?
Yeah, so if someone wants to start composting at home, what advice can you give them?
So the joke is don't. Don't do it. It's so much more work than you think it's gonna be. It's way harder than you think it's gonna be. However, it is a really rewarding experience, and it's quite literally magic before your eyes. You're watching one thing turn into something completely different, and you get to see the whole process. So if you are really committed to it, and you know going into it it's not going to be as easy as you want it to be, like, by all means, do it. However, a very important lesson I learned is, running a compost pile, a lot of people think is like cooking. You can know what ingredients you have available and know what you kind of want to make and just kind of wing it. And no matter what happens, usually you'll end up with something that tastes good. Now, if you really think about composting and proper compost technique, it's not cooking, it's baking. When you bake, you need measurements and precision, and you have to follow a recipe. Otherwise, you are not likely to end up with something that will taste good or be edible. And that's where most people go wrong when it comes to composting at home. They think, oh, I've got this stuff, and I put it in a pile, and eventually it turns to dirt. And unfortunately, especially in Florida, where humidity and water is such an issue when it comes to working outdoors, and especially composting outdoors, a lot of times all that stuff will melt together. It'll start to anaerobically decompose, which is what happens in the landfill. And then things will start to smell bad. Leachate will start to run off. Flies will start to become more and more abundant. And it's generally alleviated by turning the pile, adding more carbon, potentially testing pH, potentially you digging out the entire pile and starting it all over again. And then on the opposite side of that, compost is a natural conductor of heat energy. It is not the sun heating up the pile that makes it get so hot. Compost itself generates heat as the microbes break the components of it down. So if you set your pile up incorrectly and there's too much nitrogen, which is like a lighter fluid, you could very realistically set your compost pile on fire. And now it's this fuel source torch that constantly burns. And the hotter it gets, the harder it is to flood that fire, to the point where there's a compost facility in Canada where they were doing dairy manure that's been on fire for 14 years. So again, like, by all means, do it. It's so much fun. It's super rewarding. I love it. But do some research and understand what you're getting yourself into, and realize that there's a lot of different ways to do it, and they all take different amounts of work and commitment. And I have a couple different options for at-home composting, like the worm bucket systems I sell. I also make and sell compost tubes, which are small pipes that you plant into the ground, and you just drop certain scraps into, which I also explain when you buy them from me. And that'll just help put a safe stream of organic matter into some of your planting beds in a really lazy, easy to keep up with way. So your trash diversion program in your kitchen, you can work on more, or you can just not throw those coffee grinds away every day. It's really up to you and what your ultimate sustainability goals are.
I have some other questions too. How much organic soil would be produced from the compost collected in either of the family size scenarios? So those images that we had up presented in a given time frame. So how much is going to be produced in like 6 months to a year?
So it takes me on average about 10 months to get from the trash I collect to finished soil. And because of some of the laws with commercial composting in Palm Beach County, I don't produce or sell dirt or compost. I only produce and sell worm castings. So first, I do the hot compost pile where all of the trash stream goes into. Then I harvest that. I cure that, which is just letting it sit and letting the microbes that are in it work the pure soil over. Then I mix that with coffee grinds and juice bar scraps, and I add about 500 to 1,000 worms. And then the worms eat that over another like 3 to 6 months. So sometimes it might even take up to a year to break this stuff down. And with the worms also working the material over, I really only get about 20 to 30% of my initial weight back. So like Dana, who was just over 200 pounds a year, that was my family of two. I would really only be producing about, 40 pounds ish of soil or worm castings from all of the weight I collected from her in 1 year.
I have two more questions, and we'll let you go because I know you're on a time schedule today. Is the benefit of composting, of your composting collection, higher enough to offset the impact of the additional driving incurred by collecting the compost?
So in most of my routes, I still end up having, I think, an overall negative impact. In the community composter industry, there are zero impact and negative impact businesses. And at the weights that I'm now collecting on average, I would be at least a zero impact business. However, because I have multiple farms and all of my mileage is routed based on the farms that I'm working off of, even though my furthest route, which I think Boca and Stewart are not entirely sustainable yet, but the rest of my routes, especially my Jupiter and Gardens routes, are negative impact. There are some really cool businesses in other places in the country that do bicycle pickup, and those bicycle pickup businesses have no fuel emissions and no greenhouse gas emissions from the landfill. So their impact is much more significant than mine. But even with the regular gasoline versus the diesel hauling, because I do my pickups in just a regular car, the emissions are still less than the emissions that I'm diverting based on my data.
That's awesome. So one last question. Someone would like to know more about your worms. So what kind of worms do you use and why? And how many do you have? Do you have a count?
Well, they're not the easiest to count and keep precise numbers on. However, I have two species of worms. I started with red wigglers 5 years ago. Those are the Insenia fetidas. Those are the most common composting worms. And they are usually referred to as composting worms, not earthworms, because they're very small. They're very social. They like to live in like hordes. And they tend to only burrow about 2 feet into the ground, whereas most earthworms will burrow 9 to 20 feet in some cases into the earth. So they're not good for garden beds or releasing it into your property because they don't really aerate the soil too much. But what they do a really good job at is breaking down material into a really beautiful topsoil. And they have much bigger appetites than most of the other earthworms. Since they like to live in hordes, you can keep a lot of them in a small space. So the formula, which isn't precise, but the formula for that is you can fit approximately 1,000 red wigglers in every square foot of composting space, as long as you have about 18 inches of depth for them. So I fluctuate based on worm sales, my worm bin sales, and other stuff I use the worms for, between 50,000 red wigglers and maybe 100,000 red wigglers at a time. I did also get into African night crawlers, which are also known as, I think, jumbo reds, and they are in the night crawler family of worms, which are the more common bait worms or fishing worms you would buy in the store. The African ones are just better suited for our climate. European night crawlers, which are what you would buy at a bait store, like much cooler temperatures. And once you start to hit 80, 85 degrees, they burrow so deep that they end up dying, or they just slowly dehydrate because their metabolism can't tolerate the temperatures. The red wigglers will put up with up to like 90, 95 degrees, and the African night crawlers will deal with even more than 95 degrees. They work okay together. The African night crawlers are very temperamental and harder to keep happy than the wigglers are. So they tend to escape my systems much faster, and they are harder to get in like a amorous condition where they will breed up their numbers as fast as the red wigglers do. But I find that the two of them together, I'm able to process scraps a little bit faster than I was even with higher numbers of the wigglers. The night crawlers, I probably only have about 10,000, give or take. I do keep a small population of both in my bedroom. They're very spoiled and well cared for. And those I specifically run as demos to make sure my bucket systems work the same way I tell people they do, because I do tell people they're meant to be kept indoors. And then I also keep a breeder tray of the red wiggler and African nightcrawler mix. So when I ship worm bins out of state, I have ones that are better acclimated to like an indoor or less humid environment and are more likely to stabilize and do well in their new home. I've had some go out to Indiana and Michigan and Illinois recently, and I have a Facebook group for all of my bucket worm bin customers where everyone who has one of my systems can post in there, and they get direct access to me and my secretary who moderates it, and also each other, so you can all learn about your systems together.
Thank you so much, Mel. We really appreciate you being here with us today and providing all of this great information. I just have a few slides just kind of to wrap up some things. So if you need to go, I totally understand. We all thank you for being with us today.
Awesome. I'm gonna just plug all of my social media and website and stuff. I am at Wormy Queen on Instagram, WORMYQUEEN, because I am Nova Worm Queen. My business is letitrot.org. You can find me on Facebook /letitrot. All of my Facebook groups are linked to the Facebook page, and all of my social media is linked to the website. My phone number, 561-287-0406, is on all of my social media, on Instagram and everything. Call or text with all your squirmy questions, okay?
Thank you, Mel. And I'll include all that information in the follow-up email as well. So everyone will have access to all of your wonderful information that you share on social media and your website as well.
Excellent. Thank you all so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mel. So I just want to leave us with just a few other things that I want to mention here. Some programs that we have with the City of West Palm Beach Office of Sustainability. We have a rain barrel giveaway. So if you're thinking about composting, this might be something to add to your garden or your yard. We do give away free rain barrels, 55-gallon rain barrels, and we have made it safe. We have safe parking lot pickups, but you do need to register beforehand. So visit our website, wpb.org/savewater. We also have a native tree giveaway. So if you're interested in composting, interested maybe in rain barrels, maybe you'd like a free tree as well. So we give away free native trees to City of West Palm Beach residents and businesses. We also have an online application for that and the safe parking lot pickups. Visit our website, wpb.org/10ktrees. We have a rain barrel giveaway and a tree giveaway in December. So go ahead and get your registrations in if you're interested in those. And our next virtual program is going to be on December 4th, Upcycling for the Holidays with Resource Depot. We're going to be making a really awesome wine cork holder or jewelry holder. And so you can use it either to like pin pictures to or cards or whatever you like really, but you can also make one that's for jewelry. So you can hang your jewelry on it. This is going to be a virtual workshop. So the first 20 who register will be able to get a free kit with the supplies that are needed for the workshop. And you can pick that up from Resource Depot, but registration is required. So again, that's only for the first 20. I'll send out the registration link with the follow-up email that I send out later today. And that should be a really great program. Resource Depot is going to tell us how to make everything. So it's going to be really fun and something you can maybe gift to someone for the holidays as well. And if you're interested in any of our other programs or just sustainability in general, visit our webpage, wpb.org/green. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at WPB Green. And again, all of this information is going to be sent out to you through the follow-up email to the email address that you used to register for today's program. So with that, I just want to say thank you all for joining us today. I know we went over the 12:30 mark, but it's such an interesting topic. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to respond to the email that I send out, or again, you can reach out straight to Mel, the Worm Queen, as well. I'm sure she'll be able to answer your questions too. Thank you for joining us. Have a great Friday, a great weekend, a great Thanksgiving. Bye, guys.